The eye roll is not disrespect. I know that is not what it feels like. I know what it feels like is your child looking you dead in the face and telling you without words that you are irrelevant, that what you just said does not matter, that they are somewhere above you and they are not coming down. And every parent who has ever been on the receiving end of that look knows the specific feeling it produces. Something hot rises up in your chest, your jaw tightens, and everything in you wants to respond to it in a way that forces the acknowledgement you just got denied. And that reaction, that hot, immediate, visceral reaction, is exactly what makes most parents handle the eye roll in the worst possible way. They match it, they escalate, they punish it, they demand an apology for it, they lecture about respect for 20 minutes while their child sits there behind their face, somewhere completely unreachable. And nothing changes. The eye roll comes back. It comes back the next day, it comes back louder, because the approach that felt like discipline was actually doing something completely different on the inside of your child's brain. It was feeding the very thing it was trying to correct. This video is going to show you what is actually happening when your child rolls their eyes at you, what it means neurologically, what it means relationally, and exactly what to do in the moment and after the moment to reset it at the root, not suppress it, not punish it into hiding, reset it. So it stops coming from a place of disconnection and starts getting replaced by something that actually works for both of you. Let's start with what the eye roll actually is, because if you think it is disrespect, you are only seeing the surface, and you cannot fix something you only see the surface of. The eye roll is a contempt signal. That is the clinical term for it. And contempt, according to decades of relationship research, is not the same as anger. Anger is hot. Anger wants engagement. Anger is still trying to connect, even if the connection is through conflict. Contempt is cold. Contempt has given up on connection. Contempt says, I have assessed this situation and this person, and I have decided, they are not worth engaging with seriously. That is what the eye roll communicates. Not I hate you, not I am being deliberately rude, but something closer to I do not believe this interaction is going to go anywhere worth going. I have stopped expecting to be heard here. I am protecting myself from the disappointment of trying and not being reached. And here's the part that should stop you cold. Contempt signals, according to the research of Dr. John Gottman, who spent decades studying relationships, contempt signals do not emerge suddenly. They are built slowly through repeated experiences of feeling dismissed, unheard, talked at instead of talked with, corrected without being understood, managed without being seen. The eye roll that looks like a sudden act of disrespect is almost never sudden. It is the visible tip of an accumulation. It is the moment when everything that has been building underneath finally shows up on your child's face, which means the eye roll is not the problem. The eye roll is the signal. And if you respond only to the signal, if you punish the signal without understanding what it is signaling, you do not solve the problem. You just teach your child to hide the signal. The contempt stays. It goes underground. And a child who has contempt but has been punished out of showing it, that child does not grow closer to you. They grow further, they just do it more quietly. So let's talk about what to do instead. The immediate response, what you do in the actual moment the eye roll happens, is the most important part, because the moment is where the pattern either gets interrupted or gets reinforced. And what most parents do in that moment reinforces it, even when it feels like correction. Here is what not to do first, because being clear about what does not work is just as important as knowing what does. Do not react with matching contempt. Do not give them a look back. Do not say, excuse me, in that specific tone that every parent knows and every child knows means you are about to make this very unpleasant. Do not immediately demand an apology. Do not launch into a lecture about respect. Do not threaten a consequence in the heat of the moment. And do not, and this is the one that seems counterintuitive, do not pretend it did not happen, because ignoring it without addressing it teaches your child that the signal is invisible. And a child whose signals are invisible sends them louder next time. Here's what you do instead. In the moment, right then, you pause. You do not react immediately. You take one breath, a real one, slow, through the nose, and you let 2 seconds pass. Those 2 seconds are not nothing. Those 2 seconds are you choosing your response instead of firing your reaction. And that distinction between a chosen response and an automatic reaction is the entire difference between a moment that escalates and a moment that opens. Then you get quiet. Not cold, not withdrawn, quiet. You lower your energy instead of raising it. You look at your child calmly, not with the challenging stare that invites them to hold the eye roll, but with a look that is steady, open, and genuinely curious. And you say something that almost no parent in this moment says. You say, hey, I noticed that. Talk to me. What is actually going on? Not how dare you, not you better check that attitude, not a consequence. A question, a real one. One that says, I saw what just happened, and instead of punishing it, I want to understand it. Because I am the adult here, and I am more interested in what is underneath that than in winning a power struggle about it. That response, calm, curious, direct, does something in your child's brain that punishment cannot do. It activates the prefrontal cortex. It brings the thinking brain back online, and it sends a signal that cuts directly against the contempt template. The contempt template says, this person is not going to hear me. Your response says, I am listening right now, actually listening. And most children, not all immediately, but most, when the question is asked genuinely enough and the environment is calm enough, they answer. Not with the full truth right away, but with something, a shrug, a nothing, a defensive, I don't know. And any of those responses is the door opening, just a crack. And your job is to put your foot in that crack without forcing it wider than it wants to go right now. You say, okay, I hear that, but something is going on, and I am not going anywhere until we figure out what it is. Not to punish you, because I want to know. And then you wait. Because the wait, the patient, non-threatening, I have time for this wait, is what what makes the door open further. Now, let's talk about what happens after the immediate moment, because the immediate moment is just the first part. The reset happens over a longer arc. The first thing to understand about resetting the eye roll at the root is that the eye roll is almost always connected to one of three core experiences your child is having in their relationship with you. And until you identify which one or which combination, you are working with the wrong tool. The first core experience is chronic dismissal. This is when your child has learned through repeated experience that what they say, feel, think, and need does not really land with you. They talk and feel talked over. They express something and feel managed rather than heard. They share an opinion and feel immediately corrected rather than considered. And over time, the brain stops expecting to be heard. And when the brain stops expecting something, it stops seeking it. And what you see on the outside when a child has stopped seeking to be heard by you is the eye roll. Because why lean in? Nothing lands anyway. If this is what is underneath your child's eye roll, then the correction is not a consequence. The correction is a listening overhaul. It means that the next time your child says something to you, you stop what you are doing completely. You turn your whole body toward them. You listen without preparing your response. You reflect back what you heard before you add anything of your own. So what you are saying is you felt like nobody asked what you wanted. Is that right? That experience, being genuinely heard, accurately reflected, is so unfamiliar to a chronically dismissed child that it almost startles them. And that startling is the beginning of the reset, because the template that said this person does not hear me just got contradicted by direct experience. And enough contradictions, enough genuine moments of being heard rebuild the template from the ground up. The second core experience underneath chronic eye rolling is status threat. And this one is especially common in children between the ages of 9 and 14, though it can appear earlier. As children develop, particularly as they move toward adolescence, the brain undergoes a reorganization that makes social status and peer perception increasingly important. The peer group starts to matter more. The parent's opinion starts to matter less, not because the child loves you less, but because their developing brain is biologically designed to start individuating from you, to start building an identity that is separate from yours. And when a parent does not understand this shift, when they continue to relate to a 10, 11, 12-year-old the same way they related to them at 6, the child experiences it as a status threat, as being treated like a baby, as having their developing autonomy and competence dismissed by the person who is supposed to see them most clearly. The eye roll in this case is not contempt exactly. It is more like, I am more than you are giving me credit for, and I cannot make you see it, so I'm just going to stop trying. The correction here is upgrading how you relate to them. It means giving them more genuine autonomy in areas where autonomy is appropriate, asking for their opinion on real things and actually incorporating it sometimes, letting them be right in front of you without deflecting, treating them in both tone and expectation like the increasingly capable person they are becoming rather than the small child they no longer are. That upgrade, feeling seen at the developmental stage they are actually at, directly addresses the status threat, and a child whose status is not being threatened has no need to signal contempt. They are already being respected, which is what they were signaling they needed all along. The third core experience is emotional overload with no outlet, and this one is the most common and the least recognized. Some children roll their eyes because they are carrying something they do not have the language or the safety to say directly. They are stressed, they are anxious, they are feeling something big that they cannot name, and the feelings that cannot be named cannot be expressed cleanly, so they leak out sideways, through the eye roll, through the snap, through the shutdown, through the behaviors that look like attitude but are actually overwhelm in disguise. If this is your child, then responding to the eye roll with consequences is like responding to a person who is drowning by criticizing their swimming technique. The problem is not the technique. The problem is the water, and the water needs to be addressed before the swimming can improve. What this child needs in the moment and over time is emotional safety. They need to experience repeatedly and consistently that big feelings are welcome in your presence, that they do not have to manage what they feel before they bring it to you, that you can handle whatever is in there without either falling apart or shutting down. You build that safety through the small moments, through not reacting strongly when they express something uncomfortable, through saying that makes sense before you offer any kind of correction or perspective, through being the person who asks how are you actually doing and then waits long enough for a real answer instead of moving on the moment they say fine. A child who has that kind of emotional safety with you does not need the eye roll, because the eye roll is a closed door signal. And a child who has a genuinely open door, who knows from experience that the door actually opens, that something real happens when they walk through it, they use the door. They do not stand outside making faces at it. Now let's talk about the brain reset piece specifically, because this is what the title promised, and it is real. There is a specific neurological process happening during and after the eye roll, and there are specific things you can do that physically shift that process. When your child rolls their eyes at you, their brain is in a state of low-grade threat activation. The amygdala is running the show. The prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for empathy, reasoning, connection, and regulation, is offline or running at reduced capacity. And you cannot have a real conversation, a real correction, or a real connection with the brain that is in that state. You are literally talking to the wrong part of the brain. The reset, the actual neurological reset, happens through cheoregulation, which is your regulated nervous system pulling their dysregulated nervous system back toward baseline. And it works only if you are actually regulated. Or if you are reactive, if your voice is tight, your energy is hot, your presence is threatening, their amygdala stays activated. It has to, because you are the threat it is responding to. But if you bring genuine calm, slow voice, open face, relaxed body, unhurried energy, their nervous system has something to sync with, and it will sync because the human nervous system is wired for co-regulation. It is one of the most deeply built-in biological functions we have. We regulate each other. We always have. And a child's nervous system is especially wired to sync with the parents. It is the original co-regulation relationship. So in practice, the brain reset after an eye roll looks like this. You regulate yourself first, breath, body, face. Then you bring that regulated energy into the space. Calm, close, curious. You do not demand engagement. You offer it. You stay present without pressuring. You give the conversation room to breathe. You wait for the moment when you can see in their face, in their body, that something has shifted, that the guard is coming down just a fraction. And in that moment, you move toward connection, not toward correction. Connection first. Always connection first. Because a brain that feels connected is a brain that can receive correction. A brain that feels threatened can only defend. Here is the practical framework, the one you actually use, starting today. In the moment, pause, breathe, lower your energy, ask a genuine question instead of reacting. Say, talk to me, what is actually going on, and mean it. In the hour after, find a calm moment to come back to it, not to relitigate, to connect. Hey, earlier felt off between us. I am not mad. I just want to make sure we are okay. That repair, small, clean, adult, keeps the relationship account from going into deficit over one hard moment. In the week after, look honestly at which of the three core experiences is underneath the pattern: chronic dismissal, status threat, emotional overload. Because the pattern will come back until the root is addressed, and the root is always a need that is not being met. And over time, build the daily deposits, the 10 minutes of genuine presence, the questions that invite real answers, the moments of being heard accurately, the upgraded relating that matches who your child is actually becoming. Because those deposits are what fill the account that the eye roll is drawing on. The eye roll is not the enemy. The eye roll is an invitation, a badly worded, infuriating, hard to receive invitation to look more closely at what is happening between you and your child. And the parents who accept that invitation, who get curious instead of reactive, who look underneath instead of just responding to the surface, those are the parents whose children stop needing the eye roll. Because the thing the eye roll was trying to communicate finally got communicated another way, through a real conversation, through a moment of being genuinely heard, through the small daily experience of, this person sees me, this person is not going anywhere, this person can handle what is actually happening with me. That is what resets the brain, not a consequence, not a lecture, not a power struggle you win, a relationship that finally feels safe enough to be honest in. Go build that, one eye roll at a time.